Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second annual Foothills stakeholder meeting. My name is John Lacoste. I'm new here on the forest. Many of you probably know Stephanie Israel, who was the former Foothills program lead for the forest. I'm coming in behind her since she's taken her new position as a district ranger on the forest here. And I've been here a little bit over 2 months. Foothills has been very interesting, a lot to digest, but it's a really cool project and I'm really excited to be working on. So today we're going to go through some of the history of the Foothills landscape project, provide some updates and accomplishments on the projects that we have presented and have been working with the Foothills Collaborative Group to go through, and talk about future projects that we're looking at over the next 3 out years or so. But first, a few housekeeping items. So this is both a live and in-person event. So we've got our owl here that we're broadcasting live. It's pretty sensitive, it picks up voices. It's got a little gimbal and camera, and it will find you if you're talking. So just be aware of that as we're going through the presentation. The presentation is going to be recorded and available on our website to view later, similar to the presentation from last year's annual meeting. If you're online and watching this on Teams and you need closed captioning, there's an option in, I believe, the lower left-hand corner of the Teams app where you can turn that on. The functionality may vary depending on what device you're joining on. Sometimes on the cell phone, it's a little wonky, but if you're on a computer, that should work. For those of us in the room, emergency exits. If we need to get out of the building for some reason, we could head straight out through the front door. Restrooms, as you came in, were to your left out in the hallway. And then we have some waters, coffee, snacks, and stuff like that over in the corner. Please help yourself to that. Before I get started with the presentation I have for you today, I'm going to introduce our forest supervisor, Judy Toppins, who's got some words for us this morning.
All right, thanks, John. Most of you know me. I see a ton of familiar faces in the room, which is kind of cool. So I'm the new forest supervisor, but I'm not new to the forest. So I've been in this position now about 7 months, starting to get my feet under me a little bit in it. But of course, I've been on the forest for much longer than that. I first came here in 2011. And I have been part of this Foothills project since its inception, all the pre-planning, all of that, the very first collaborative meeting where I saw a good number of you there. So it feels really good to be at our second annual meeting already. We've come a long ways since 2016. John introduced himself, but I'll just mention that it's huge that we have him here on the forest in this position. He came to us as a presidential management fellow, did his graduate work in wildlife biology, ton of experience in the agency and lots of experience with planning too. So we've got another really sharp person at the helm for this project. So really glad to welcome John in. And also just want to mention, the work of William and Ruth and Taylor and the folks who've kind of been keeping everything moving while we've had all of this transition with Stephanie moving my transition as well. So it's been great. I also want to introduce you to Amanda G, who is our acting deputy forest supervisor. It's a new position on our forest. Hopefully we'll be able to fill it permanently one day here, but Amanda's been a huge addition as well in keeping things moving forward. So let's see. I mentioned I've been with this from the beginning. That was back in 2016. And that very first year, we just spent time figuring out what we wanted this project to be. We did workshops all over the Foothills landscape and listened to all the different interests. And that's what formed that first iteration of the Foothills project, taking you all the way back to 2017 there. It's evolved over time, but this is still your project. And your voice continues to shape it as we move forward, and it will for the entire life of the project. That's baked into this project. So that's hugely important, and it's different than many projects, and certainly ones of this scale. So now, after that decision was signed last year, we're full tilt boogie into implementation. So you're going to get to hear about some of those accomplishments today. we're really proud of, really excited about. That last year we talked about that Mooneyham implementation area. Your feedback made it a better project, and now we're implementing that. And we're excited to hear from you on what is presented today that'll help shape the project moving forward for this year. And also, of course, we have the Foothills Collaborative Group. So a lot of you are here. Raise your hand if you're a member of the FCG. So look around, these folks have signed on to do really in-depth review of project proposals and have constructive dialogue, recommendations, working with us, led by the Nature Conservancy, Tyler Cross here in the room, and University of Georgia Carl Vinson Institute of Government, Lee Elkins here in the room too. And that dedication of these folks to ensuring that this project moves forward with all those interests represented and all those voices in the mix is huge. So thank you. It's, you know, we get paid to be here, that we have these volunteers who are willing to step up to make this project as good as it can possibly be. We just couldn't be more grateful for all of you. So thank you. Let's see, we're here to listen today. That's our role. Answer questions, provide additional information as needed, but mainly we're here to listen. And so all the green pants in the room, find us, because that's what we're here for. I want to point out a couple other kind of exciting things really quickly too. Talking about the success of this project already. We just signed the decision last year. We just started implementation, but it's getting a lot of attention. So late last year, we got the attention of the Department of Agriculture, and we have the Deputy Undersecretary come and visit with our staff, find out about the implementation, learn more about the project. We also just last week hosted the entire regional leadership team of the Forest Service. So all my counterparts, the forest supervisors and directors, all came here to learn about what we did and see what they can take back to their forests. We also hosted the National Leadership Council. So the chief of the Forest Service came and visited the Mooneyham implementation area to learn more about this project. And all of them are extremely interested in the Foothills Collaborative Group and how we build in the voices as we move forward with this project. So you are part of a national model that you helped create, because this project is what it is because of your recommendations and where you took it. So congrats on that. We want to keep it moving forward in a really positive way, so that we can continue to be that model and be that success story. So today you're going to hear about some incredible work that is being planned, that's been made possible by this planning effort. That was not an easy planning effort. It took us a long time to get here, but now that we're here, it's paying off. We have, that you're going to hear more about today, millions coming to the forest and supplemental dollars for work in the Holly Creek watershed as part of the Conestoga River Basin, top 10 on the continent, river systems for aquatic biodiversity. It's one of the global hotspots for aquatic biodiversity. This is the kind of work that is making a lasting impact, real change for future generations, really moving the needle. And it's because of the planning work that we've done, because of the voices in this room and all the folks that we've heard from over the last 5 years to get us to this spot, because of the amazing partners we have. DNR's here in the room. I see lots of folks. We're working in the Conestoga River project work with the Nature Conservancy. We're working across federal agencies with National Resource Conservation Service, with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So amazing partners coming to the table. That synchronicity of getting big stuff accomplished. So you'll hear more about all of that. And I'll just say, this is what we envisioned in the beginning, back when we just first started talking about, why do we want to work on a landscape scale? Why do we want to invest so much in a project like this? so that we could look holistically, so that we could look at things in an integrated way, and so that we could have real lasting impact. And our mantra was the right work in the right place for the right reasons and at the right scale. And we're starting to see that, what we envisioned. And we want to stay on the rails and keep it moving forward that way. And your voice is important for that accountability and also for our success. So thanks everybody for that time. I'm really happy to be serving as the forest supervisor during the implementation of Foothills. It's been a long road and I'm proud to be here. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Super. So yeah, as Judy said, I'm going to go through a little bit of the history. I'm going to go through some of the process of what getting to implementation looks like for us in the Foothills landscape project, and then talk about some of the accomplishments, some of the out here stuff that we're working on. So the Foothills landscape project was 150 or is a 157,000 acre integrated resource management and landscape restoration framework. It covers 39 proposed actions. This is not an exhaustive list of those 39 proposed actions, but I just wanted to throw some up here. I couldn't fit all 39 on here, and that's across 16 implementation areas on our northern 3 districts of the forest. Some of the things we're looking at in these proposed actions are maintenance of southern yellow pine and restoration of southern yellow pine forest, creating young forest, early successional habitat, looking at bog improvements, canebrake restoration projects, small world begonia improvements, stream habitat improvements, aquatic organism passages. It's really a pretty wide scope of the types of land management that we do as an agency. So again, here's the general map of where the Foothills implementation areas are. Like I said, it is spread across all 3 of our northern districts. There are 7 implementation areas on the Conasauga district, 2 on the Blue Ridge district, and 7 more on the Chattooga River Ranger district. So as we stated earlier, initial public involvement began in 2016. We were obviously working on the project prior to that, but that's when we really started to engage. And from then through 2022, when the decision was signed, there was a ton of interaction. There was a ton of public meetings, conversations with partners and members of the public. And one of the things we heard through those conversations was the interest in our commitment to continue collaboration going forward on this project. And again, that's where that Foothills Collaborative Group, the idea of that was born out of that. We worked with TNC and Carl Vincent to pull together that, and they stood up. TNC is lead for that for at least the next year and a half or so. And then we might be looking for some of our other members that have joined that collaborative to potentially, they might need to step up and take a leadership role in that as well. Last year, or I guess this year in April, we finalized the first integrated project, which was the Mooneyham project. That was presented at last year's annual meeting. And also in this year, we've implemented our first standalone projects, and I'm going to go over that stuff in more detail a little later. So where we are now is continuing to interact with the Foothills Collaborative Group and planning our projects for next fiscal year and beyond. Like I said, we're going to be looking for your guys' input on the different implementation areas that we're looking at going into in the out years. So as far as projects within the Foothills landscape decision, there's kind of 2 types of projects. So what we've been calling implementable projects, which are projects that are directly implementable from the decision. They had sufficient site specificity when we were going through that EA for us to be comfortable going forward with those projects. That doesn't mean that we're not doing additional work. And when I get to the process guide on the next slide, I'll talk about that. So there's more review that happens with that to make sure there's no change conditions and that sort of stuff as we get to the point of implementing those projects. Then we also have what we've been calling our collaborative projects. So these are the ones in the EA in that decision that didn't have quite enough site specificity for us to feel comfortable going forward with those. So we are engaging with the Foothills Collaborative Group on those and working through our pre-implementation process guide to pull together that site-specific information, present it to them, have some discussions, pull other additional information as needed and suggested, and get to a place where everybody's feeling comfortable about going forward and implementing those. Within the collaborative project, there's also standalone and integrated projects. So Mooneyham was an integrated project. We looked at all of the resource area and the potential projects that we could pull together within the footprint of that implementation area and presented those as one package. We've also looked at a few different implementation areas that we'll talk about later, where we pulled some individual projects out and pushed those forward ahead of the integrated project that will happen within those implementation areas. And that's for various reasons, whether we had some resource issues or some funding that was coming down, opportunities that we wanted to move a little faster on those projects. So we pulled them out as standalone projects. And again, I'll have a slide on those here in a minute. So I've mentioned the implementation guide. I know Stephanie mentioned this last year in the annual meeting as well. But this is kind of our standardized guide that we're using to go forward with the projects that we were proposed in the Foothills EA. So it's a 10-step document. And regardless of whether we're talking about an implementable project or a collaborative project, these first 3 steps remain unchanged. We're going through that process for anything that we're going to implement in the landscape. So for the first step, we're identifying all the management opportunities within an implementation area. Moving to step 2, we're going to complete initial field reviews and validate thresholds for the proposed actions within that implementation area. And then we're going to draft an implementation plan and initiate surveys for that. And I'm going to drill down on those in a little more depth right now. So for that step 1, while we're identifying all the management opportunities, we're looking at current forest stand conditions and desired future conditions on the forest plan and analyzing for that. Looking at impaired streams and known sedimentation issues, existing threatened and endangered species or rare plants within that area, existing and needed prescribed burns within the implementation area, current road inventory and desired future state, current rec needs, and then also our heritage and vegetation survey needs within that area. When we get to step 2, completing the initial field reviews. So there's actually a checklist for each of the staff areas on the districts, and they'll go through that. And for example, aquatics and terrestrial wildlife, they're going to review the existing data, determine known locations of threatened and endangered species, designated critical habitats, regional forest sensitive species or locally rare species. They're going to identify potential aquatic organism passage opportunities, identify any known issues that are contributing to decreased habitat quality, and consider opportunity and need for wildlife habitat improvement, things such as that. And you can go through all these. Culture Resources is going to identify their survey needs. They're going to consult with Georgia State Historic Preservation Society, SHPO, and the tribes. Fire and Fuels is going to be looking at existing burn units and potential new burn units. They're going to be looking at fuels reduction opportunities in relation to wildland urban interface. Soils and hydrology is going to be looking at watersheds For sedimentation, we're going to be looking at our wild and scenic corridors. So there's a pretty exhaustive list. I've got a copy of an implementation guide if you're interested in seeing all of that. But a fairly exhaustive checklist that we're going through in step 2. Then in step 3, we're going to draft the implementation plan and initiate the surveys. We have contracting process for vegetation and heritage surveys. Sometimes we have capacity to do that stuff in-house. Sometimes there's opportunities and fundings available to contract some of that work out. And then present the draft implementation plan to the stakeholders. So this is where we were last year with the Mooneyham project at that annual meeting. We were at step 4, presenting that project to the group. At that point, the Foothills Collaborative Group had not been formed, but now we have that group that we're primarily working through when we get to this step. From there, we're receiving input from the collaborative group. We're conducting additional field trips, or if they're reaching out to experts and getting more questions or information that they need to bring back to us, we're coordinating with them to answer that stuff and satisfy concerns. Step 7, we'll identify additional monitoring needs. And then in step 8, we'll finalize our implementation plan. And then that will be signed by the line officer of the district ranger. And then the final step, conduct contract review, mostly to do with timber sale, timber contract work. So some updates on the implementation areas where we are doing work going forward with these projects. So we're going to talk about the Mooneyham implementation area that was presented last year, which is an integrated project. That's that all-encompassing project. And then we have 2 standalones that I'm going to touch on, and that's the Earls Ford project, which is within the Sarah's Creek implementation area, and the AOP project, which is within the Holly Creek implementation area. And then I've got some information on the future implementation areas that we're looking at that integrated collaborative project process going in the next 3 years. So this is an exhaustive list of everything that we presented for the Mooneyham integrated project. I'm not going to go through all of these. A lot of it is the same stuff that I talked about on the second slide of this. We've got prescribed burning within new and existing blocks, commercial, non-commercial thinning of yellow pine, maintenance of oak forest through commercial and non-commercial mid-story reduction. Pretty exhaustive list. This was all presented last year during the annual meeting. Where are we with it now? So the non-commercial oak mid-story treatment, we're planning to implement in fiscal year 24 this year. And we're partnering with Rough Grouse Society to collect data and develop a contract to do that work. The existing turkey beard prescribed burn is also planned for spring of 2024. The Mooneyham timber sale is currently being cruised and marked and planned for advertisement in fiscal year 24 as well. And some road maintenance has been done on Forest Service Road 151, including gravel placement, repair of a washout, and replacement of several culverts. And for that non-commercial oak mid-story treatment, it is the reddish brown color that you see on the map. And there are printed versions of this map that will be at the table if you want to take a little closer look at that stuff as well. I talked about the turkey beard prescribed burn. It's the reddish purple block in the middle on the north side of the unit there that will be conducted this spring. Other accomplishments in 2023. So we converted the Rocky Flats OHV trail back to a system road. It was 3.36 miles on the Conasauga Ranger District within the Mill Creek and Rocky Flat Branch implementation area. And then we had several burns, 2 on the Conasauga, the Buffalo prescribed burn unit within the upper Conasauga implementation area, and the Rocky Flats prescribed burn unit within the Rocky Flat branch implementation area on the Consaga. And then on the Chattooga River Ranger District, we had the Slick Shoals prescribed burn unit on the Tallulah River implementation area, and the Stonewall prescribed burn unit on the Tiger implementation area. So I mentioned standalone projects a minute ago. So this is the Earls Ford project. So this is one we presented in July to the Foothills Collaborative Group. And the purpose of this project is to eliminate the ability for vehicles to operate outside of the established Earls Ford road prism and onto National Forest System lands within the Wild and Scenic River corridor. We have had some issues with vehicles leaving the road and coming onto forest in that area. We also want to rehabilitate 1 acre of riparian habitat within the stream management zone of the Chattooga River that has been impacted. And the goal here is to achieve the desired watershed and riparian restoration objective within the Wild and Scenic River corridor. And you can see on the map here, this is at the terminus of Earls Ford Road, where it ends at the river. And the orange box off to the right side of the road, if you were driving down it, is the area where we're looking to do that restoration work. Another standalone project that we are currently presenting and has gone to the collaborative for them to review is aquatic organism passage project within the Holly Creek implementation area on the Chattooga Ranger District. So culvert assessments were completed in this area in 2022. And after we did those assessments, we found 4 culverts that were complete barriers to aquatic organism passage within 3 different creeks. So that was Emery Creek, Milma Branch, and then 2 on Dill Creek, I believe. So all 3 of these streams are Holly Creek tributaries and are important and have important endemic fish fauna. So the goal is to increase the connectivity in cold and warm water streams by decreasing the number of barriers to aquatic organism passage. And what our plan is to replace the culverts, which are the barriers to this aquatic organism passage, with appropriate structures such as bottomless culverts, bridges, or low water fords, in conjunction with other treatments such as stream habitat and road improvements. So past those projects, where we're looking at heading, and this is over the next 3 years across all 3 districts on the north side. So for the Chattooga River Ranger District, the next interdisciplinary collaborative project will be the Lower Chattooga implementation area. We plan to present this project to the Foothills Collaborative Group in fiscal year 24. And a stand inventory is currently ongoing in that implementation area. Proposed vegetation treatments will involve a variety of southern yellow pine maintenance and restoration, woodland restoration, and oak pine maintenance. Many of these treatments will also be accompanied with prescribed fire, which will also assist in reducing hazardous fuels within the wildland urban interface. Dispersed recreation management opportunities and improvements to existing road systems for soil and water quality will also be incorporated into these projects. So this area was chosen for the first entry on the Chattooga River Ranger District due to good, accessible, and operable roads, vegetation products, and a multitude of overstocked stands and need for restoration and maintenance, and for soil and water quality control due to the wild and scenic Chattooga River that runs along the edge of that district. For the Consaga Ranger District, the next interdisciplinary collaborative project that they're looking at entering into is the Upper Consaga implementation area. You may know that this was described in the Foothills EA as Jigger Creek. It has since undergone a name change. Plan presentation for this to the Foothills Collaborative Group is in fiscal year 25. Field recon has begun, and they're expecting a very similar suite of actions as the adjacent Mooneyham project that was presented last year. This area was chosen because of it's immediately adjacent to the Mooneyham implementation area and the ongoing work there. It also has critical aquatic habitat in the Conestoga River watershed and good access via existing transportation system. And there's also known management needs within this implementation. There we go. And the Blue Ridge Ranger District, finally. The next interdisciplinary collaborative project for them will be the Three Sisters implementation area. Plan to present to the Foothills Collaborative Group in fiscal year 25 or 26. Limited real field recon has occurred at this area. But the district will be partnering with Georgia DNR to identify focal areas and treatments to increase habitat for non-game and game wildlife species adjacent to known populations. Treatments in this implementation area may include prescribed burning, non-commercial vegetation management through commercial timber sales, expanding or feathering the edges of existing wildlife openings, road daylighting, establishing linear wildlife openings on some existing road segments. This was chosen due to the proximity of recent treatments under the Forest Health Stewardship EA and the ability to work collaboratively with DNR under Good Neighbor Authority. The opportunity to improve habitat for a wide variety of wildlife species in the Chestatee WMA as well. So those are our three out-year projects. We're going to have a table set up for each ranger district around the room. And they've got more maps and information. And we're really interested in hearing from you, what your guys' thoughts are on those particular areas. Maybe you know about something in there that you're passionate about that you want to share with us, or we might not be aware of for some reason. But after we wrap this up, please walk around, talk to the different district staff that are here, and provide any input or feedback on those implementation areas that you can. If my PowerPoint is, you can also send me an email at the Foothills sm.fs.foothills@usda.gov. If for some reason you leave the meeting today and you think of something and you're not sure who you were talking to, or you don't have their email address, you can send it to me on that and I can make sure to get it to them as well. Information, this presentation, the recording is all going to be available on the Foothills project page, which is the link up at the top there. And for those of you that aren't registered for Foothills updates, you can also do that from our main page. If you go to our main page and scroll down till you see the social media icons and click on the envelope, that'll pull up a page where you enter your email address and you can select Foothills. If you want to get Foothills email updates, we'll add you to the mail list as well. As far as presentation, that's all I've had. We're here to hear you guys and talk through these projects and any information. I know we'll have, I believe, Conestoga over here. There's lots of information on the Holly Creek stuff. Looking forward into continued implementation in Mooneyham and Upper Conestoga. I believe we'll have the Blue Ridge Ranger District set up back there and the Chattooga River section here. And that's it. I appreciate it.
I think you.
Go.